Commander Jake Morrison sat in the communications room of the spaceship Aurora Dawn. His hands held a hot cup of coffee. The ship had been flying through deep space for 3 months now. Nothing exciting had happened in weeks. Jake liked it. That way. Boring meant safe when you were millions of miles from home. The Aurora Dawn was not a big ship. It had a crew of 25 people. They were explorers, not fighters. Their job was to map new star systems and look for signs of life. So far, they had found a lot of empty space and a few dead rocks floating around old stars. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez worked at the main communications desk. She had short black hair and quick fingers that moved across the control panels like a piano player. Amy was good at her job. She could pick up radio signals from halfway across the galaxy if she tried hard enough. Commander Amy called out. Her voice sounded different, excited. I'm getting something weird here. Jake walked over to her station. The coffee cup made soft clinking sounds against his metal belt buckle as he moved. What kind of weird? Amy pointed at the screen in front of her. Green lines moved up and down like waves on an ocean. It's a signal, but not like anything we've seen before. The pattern is strange. Listen, she pressed a button. Static filled the room. Then, through the noise, came something else. It was hard to describe. The sound went up and down in a rhythm that almost made sense, like someone trying to talk, but in a language that had never been heard by human ears. Chief Engineer Pete Sullivan looked up from his work table on the other side of the room. Pete was a big man with thick arms and gray hair. He had been fixing machines longer than Amy had been alive. Play that again, he said. Amy pressed the button once more. The strange sound filled the room again. Pete walked over slowly, wiping grease off his hands with an old cloth. I know that sound, Pete said quietly. You know alien languages now? Jake asked with a smile. No, Pete replied. But I know scared when I hear it. The signal came again. This time, it was weaker. Whatever was sending the message was either moving away from them or running out of power. Maybe both. Jake made a decision. Amy, can you figure out where it's coming from? Give me a few minutes. Her fingers danced across the controls. Numbers appeared on the screen. The computer made soft beeping sounds as it worked. Got it. Signal is coming from a star system about 4 light years from here. But Commander, the signal is getting weaker every time it repeats. How long before we lose it completely? Amy looked at the numbers again. Maybe 6 hours? 8, if we're lucky? Jake thought about this. The Aurora Dawn was an exploration ship. Finding new things was exactly what they were supposed to do. They were also a long way from home. If something went wrong, help would not come quickly. Lieutenant Carter, Jake called to the ship's navigator. Tony Carter was a young man with bright eyes and steady hands. He could fly the Aurora Dawn through an asteroid field blindfolded if he had to. Yes, sir? Plot a course for that signal's location. Best possible speed. Right away, Commander. The ship's engines made a different sound as Tony changed their direction. The Aurora Dawn was fast for an exploration ship, but space was big. It would take them 3 hours to reach the signal's location. Dr. Lisa Kim came into the communications room carrying a tablet computer. Lisa was the ship's science officer. She studied alien life, which was a job that had been pretty boring so far. They had not found any aliens yet. Heard the signal, Lisa said. I've been running it through the computer's language programs. Any luck? Jake asked, not with the words. The computer can analyze emotional patterns in speech. Even alien. Speech. Lisa showed them her tablet. More green lines moved across the screen. Look at this. The pitch changes, the rhythm, the way the sound gets higher and lower. It's not just random. What does it mean? Amy asked. The computer thinks whoever is making this sound is afraid. Very afraid. Lisa touched the screen and the signal played again. But more than that, the computer thinks they're asking for help. The room became quiet, except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people, smart people. People who had volunteered to fly into unknown space because they wanted to help humanity learn about the universe, Commander, Pete said slowly. I've got a bad feeling about this. What kind of bad feeling? It was quiet for a moment, and he said, my grandfather fought in World War II. He used to tell me stories about the war. One thing he always said was that you could tell the difference between someone calling for help and someone calling because they were being hunted. And this sounds like someone being hunted. The signal played again automatically. It's time. Everyone listened more carefully. Now that Pete had said it, Jake could hear it too. The desperation in the voice, the panic. Someone out there was in trouble. Big trouble. Dr. Kim, Jake said, how long would it take you to learn enough of their language to talk to them? If we had weeks, maybe, but with just this signal, Lisa shook her head. It would be almost impossible. If we just tried to help without talking? Help how? Jake did not answer right away. He was thinking. The Aurora Dawn was not a military ship, but it was built tough. It had to be, to survive in deep space. The crew was small, but they were smart and brave. They had trained for dangerous situations, even though they hoped never to face any. Amy, keep monitoring that signal. Let me know if anything changes. Sir Pete, I want a full diagnostic on all ship systems. Engines, weapons, shields, everything. Weapons. Pete raised an eyebrow. Commander, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? I'm thinking that if someone out there needs help, we should try to help them. That's what humans do. Tony Carter looked up from his navigation controls. Course laden, Commander. We can be there in 2 hours and 57 minutes. Jake nodded. Take us there, Mr. Carter. Full speed. The Aurora Dawn changed direction. Slightly, the stars outside the windows seemed to shift as the ship turned toward the unknown signal. In the communications room, the mysterious message continued to repeat. Each time it played, it seemed a little more desperate. Dr. Kim worked quietly at her computer, trying to understand the alien language. Amy monitored the signal's strength and watched it slowly get weaker. Pete ran checks on every system on the ship, making sure everything worked perfectly. Tony flew the ship through space toward whatever waited for them at the signal's source. Jake stood in the middle of the room, drinking his coffee and listening to the alien voice calling out across the darkness between stars. He thought about Pete's grandfather in the war stories. He thought about all the times in human history when people had heard someone calling for help and had to decide whether to answer or look the other way. The signal played again. Weaker this time, but still there. Still calling. What hour's in? 40 minutes, Tony called out. Jake finished his coffee and set the empty cup down on Amy's desk. Whatever they found when they reached the signal's location, they would be ready. The Aurora Dawn and her crew were about to answer humanity's first distress call from alien space. They just did not know yet that they were flying toward something that would change everything humans thought they knew about the universe and their place in it. The Aurora Dawn dropped out of light speed near a red star that looked old and tired. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge looking at the main screen. What he saw there made his blood run cold. A huge alien ship floated in empty space.
Ow.
The ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It looked like a metal city that could fly among the stars, but something was very wrong with it. The hull had big holes torn through it. Pieces of metal floated around the ship like dead leaves. Lights flickered on and off inside the holes. Some parts of the ship were completely dark. God, whispered Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her communication station. What happened to that thing? Jake was about to answer when Navigator Tony Carter made a sound like he had been punched in the stomach. Commander, look at the long-range sensors. More shapes appeared on the screen. 5 smaller ships moved around the damaged alien vessel. They were sleek and dark, like black sharks swimming through water. The ships moved in perfect formation, circling their prey with patience that made Jake's skin crawl. Those are not rescue. Ship's chief engineer Pete Sullivan said quietly. Dr. Lisa Kim worked at her science station, running scans of all the ships. The damaged vessel has approximately 300 life signs aboard, but the number keeps going down. Going down. How? Jake asked. Every few minutes, the computer detects fewer living beings on that ship. They're dying, Commander. Jake watched the 5 dark ships continue their slow circle around the wounded vessel. They were not trying to finish off their victim quickly. They were taking their time, like cats playing with a mouse before eating it. Amy, are you still picking up that distress signal? Yes, sir, but it's much stronger now. It's definitely coming from the big ship. Amy's fingers moved across her. Controls, Commander. I'm also picking up other transmissions. Between the 5 dark ships, can you translate any of it? Amy listened through her headphones for a moment. Her face went pale. The computer is trying, but some words are coming through. They're talking about hunting. And they keep using a word that translates to something like sport or game. Jake felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. He had grown up on a ranch in Montana. He knew the difference between hunting for food and hunting for fun. What he was seeing here looked like the second kind. Communications Officer Ben Hughes had been working quietly at his station since they arrived. Ben was good with languages and codes. He could make sense of radio signals that sounded like random noise to everyone else, Commander, Ben called out, getting audio from inside the damaged ship. The computer has figured out enough of their language to give us a basic translation. Put it on speaker. The bridge became quiet, except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Then sound filled the room. High-pitched voices speaking in a language that sounded like music, but the music was broken and full of fear. Help us, the computer's voice translated. They are inside the ship. They hunt us through the corridors. We hide, but they find us. Our children cry. We cannot escape. Another voice joined the first. They do not kill us quickly. They chase us and laugh. Some of my family are already dead. The hunters take their time. They enjoy our fear. Jake's hands closed into fists. Around him, his crew listened to the desperate voices of beings they had never seen, would probably never see, but whose terror was as clear as if they were human. 27 more dead in Section 5, came another translated voice. The hunters move closer to where the young ones hide. Someone help us. Anyone. The audio cut off. The bridge was silent except for breathing and the quiet beeps of computer. Systems. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Ron Martinez had come to the bridge during the transmission. Ron was a gentle man who had spent his life helping sick people. His face was white with anger. Commander, whatever species those are, they're being systematically murdered. This isn't war, it's slaughter. Jake studied the 5 dark ships on the screen. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met anything that could fight back. They were in no hurry because they knew their prey could not escape. Dr. Kim, what can you tell me about those 5 ships? Lisa looked at her readings. They're fast and well-armed. Built for speed and firepower, not cargo or exploration. Everything about their design says they're made for hunting. Weapons, energy weapons, missile systems, and something else.
Nice.
Some kind of boarding equipment. They're designed to capture ships, not just destroy them. Jake understood. These hunters wanted their prey alive. They wanted to board the damaged ship and hunt the beings inside face to face. They wanted to see the fear in their victims' eyes. Any sign they've noticed us? Jake asked Tony. The young navigator checked his instruments. Not yet, sir. We're still pretty far away, but if we get much closer, they'll definitely see us. Pete Sullivan had been running quiet scans on the hunting ships. Commander, I'm reading their power signatures. These ships are advanced, but they're not military vessels. They're built for hunting prey that can't fight back. What makes you say that? Shields are light, or armor is minimal. They're fast, and they hit hard, but they're not built to take damage. They've never had to be. Jake thought about this. The hunting ships were like wolves, dangerous to sheep, but wolves ran away when they met something with teeth that bit back. Distress signal from the damaged ship played again. This time the voice sounded weaker, more hopeless. Commander Amy said quietly, I'm detecting movement on the damaged ship. The hunters have docked with it. They're boarding. How many? Looks like boarding parties from all 5 ships. Maybe 60 or 70 hunters total. Jake closed his eyes and tried to think. The Aurora Dawn was one small exploration ship with 25 crew members. The 5 hunting ships probably had 10 times as many weapons and much stronger defenses. In any normal fight, the Aurora Dawn would be destroyed in minutes, but this was not a normal fight. "Mr. Hughes, can you open a communication channel to those 5 ships?" "Yes, sir." "Channel open." Jake took a deep breath. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady. "Attention, unknown vessels. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Exploration. Ship Aurora Dawn. We have received distress calls from the damaged vessel you are attacking. End your attack immediately and withdraw from this system." For a moment there was no answer. Then laughter filled the bridge. Not human laughter. Something colder and crueler. "Unknown ship," came a translated voice. "You are interfering with a legal hunt. The prey vessel entered our territory without permission. You claim the right of pursuit and capture. There is no legal right to murder helpless beings," Jake replied. "Murder?" The alien voice sounded amused. "This is not murder. This is sport. The prey runs, we hunt. It is the way of things. You will withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Jake looked around his bridge. Amy Rodriguez was checking weapon systems without being asked. Pete was rerouting power to shields and engines. Tony was plotting attack courses on his navigation computer. Dr. Kim was analyzing the hunter ship configurations, looking for weak spots. Every member of his crew wore the same expression Jake felt on his own face. Cold anger. The kind of anger humans felt when they saw bullies hurting someone who could not fight back. "Negative," Jake said into the communication system. "This is your final warning. Release your prisoners and leave this system now." The response was immediate. "You pilot 1 small vessel against 5 Catharian hunters. Your species is unknown to us, but your foolishness is clear. Withdraw now, or join the prey in death." Jake looked at the screen showing the massive, damaged ship and the 5 dark predators circling it. Inside that ship, hundreds of innocent beings were being hunted for sport. Their children were crying. Their families were dying. And the hunters thought it was fun. "Red alert," Jake announced to his ship. "All hands to battle stations. Mr. Carter, plot an attack course. Mr. Sullivan, give me everything the engines can produce." Sir Tony said quietly, "We're outnumbered 5 to 1. Jake Morrison smiled, but it was not a nice smile. It was the kind of smile his grandfather might have worn when he liberated concentration camps in World War II. The kind of smile humans wore when they decided that some things were worth fighting for, no matter the odds. "Good," Jake said. "Fair fight." Captain Zekathar stood on the bridge of his hunting ship Bloodseeker. He was tall and thin, with 4 arms that ended in claws. His skin was dark green and covered with scales. 2 yellow eyes watched the screens that showed his prey ship. This hunt had been perfect so far. The Villani were his favorite type of prey. They were small and soft, with big, frightened eyes. They ran well, and their fear tasted sweet. Zekthar had been hunting them across 3 star systems for over 2 months. Now finally, their ship was out of fuel and defenseless. The real fun could begin. "Report from boarding Team 7, came a voice through his communication system. "Go." "Ahead," Zekthar replied, his voice making a hissing sound. "We have cornered 43 prey in the lower cargo bay. They huddle together like frightened animals. Their young make interesting crying sounds. Do not kill them yet. Let them watch as you hunt the others first. Fear makes the meat taste better." "Understood, Captain?" Zekthar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The Catharians had been the greatest hunters in this part of space for over 1,000 years. No prey had ever escaped them. No other species had ever dared to challenge them. They were perfect killing machines. His second officer, a younger Catharian, named Vexstock, pointed at another screen. "Captain, there is a small ship approaching our position." Zekthar looked at the screen. The ship was tiny compared to Catharian vessels. Its design was unknown. "What species?" "Unknown, Captain. They call themselves Terrans." Terrans. Zekthar had never heard the name before. "Are they from this region of space?" "No, sir. The ship appears to be an exploration vessel, lightly armed. Small crew." Zekthar was not concerned. In 1,000 years of hunting, no species had ever interfered with Catherian sport. Most civilized races understood that the strong hunted the weak. It was the natural way of things. What do they want? They're demanding we release our prey and leave the system. This was amusing. Zekthar made a sound that was like laughter. But colder? Demanding? A single small ship makes demands of 5 Catherian hunters. Yes, Captain. Open a communication channel. I want to speak to these Terrans myself. The screen changed to show the bridge of the alien ship. Zekthar saw bipedal creatures with pale skin and small eyes. They looked soft and weak. The one who appeared to be their leader stood in the center of their command area. I am Captain Zekthar of the Catherian hunting fleet, he said in the standard Galactic language. You have entered a hunting ground during an active sports season. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The Terran leader looked directly at him through the screen. His small eyes were hard and cold. I am Commander Jake Morrison. End your attack on the defenseless ship and withdraw from this system. This is not a request. Zekthar found this entertaining. The Terran showed no fear, even though he was completely outmatched. Commander Morrison, your courage is noted. But you pilot one vessel against 5 Catherian hunters. We have been the apex predators of this region for longer than your species has likely existed. Withdraw now, and we may allow you to live. Negative. We don't abandon people in distress. People. Zekthar was confused. The Villani are prey animals. They exist to be hunted by superior species like ourselves. This is the natural order. The Terran's expression changed. The coldness in his eyes became something deeper. Something that made Zekthar feel uncomfortable for reasons he did not understand. There is no natural order that gives you the right to murder innocents for fun, the Terran said. This is your final warning. Zekthar ended the communication. These Terrans were clearly a primitive species that did not understand how the galaxy worked. They would learn quickly enough. Factstock. What are the weapons capabilities of their ship? Minimal, Captain. Standard exploration, vessel armament. They pose no real threat to us. Very well. Send hunter ships 2 and 3 to destroy them. It quick so we can return to our sport. Yes, Captain. 2 of the dark Catherian ships broke away from their circle around the prey vessel. They moved toward the Aurora Dawn with the confidence of predators who had never met anything that could hurt them. But something was wrong. The Terran ship did not try to run away. Instead, it turned toward the approaching hunters and accelerated. This was not the behavior of prey. Prey ran from predators. They begged and pleaded and tried to hide. Captain, Vexstock said, his voice uncertain. The Terran ship is moving. To attack? Impossible. Look at the size difference. They cannot seriously mean to fight, but they did mean to fight. The Aurora Dawn moved like no prey ship Zekthar had ever seen. Dodged the first hunter's weapon fire with movements that seemed to predict where the shots would go. Then it did something completely unexpected. It fired back. The Terran weapons were not as powerful as Catherian ones, but they were precise. Very precise. Instead of trying to destroy the hunter's ships, the Terrans targeted their engines and weapon systems they were trying to disable, not destroy. What kind of tactics are these? Zekthar demanded. Unknown, Captain. I have never seen prey fight like this. One of the attacking hunter ships took a direct hit to its main engine. The ship spun out of control and crashed into a piece of debris from the Villani vessel. The second hunter was having trouble keeping up with the Terran ship's movements. All ships converge on the Terran vessel. Destroy it immediately. But as the 5 hunter ships moved to attack the single exploration vessel, Zekthar began to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. These Terrans were not prey. They moved with the deadly grace of apex predators. The Aurora Dawn flew through the formation of hunter ships like it belonged there. Its pilots seemed to understand exactly how predators moved and thought. The ship was always one step ahead of where the Catherian weapons aimed. Captain, they are targeting our boarding parties, Vexstock reported. Zekthar looked at his screens in shock. The Terran ship was firing at the docking tubes that connected his boarding parties to the Villani vessel. They were trying to cut off his hunters and trap them on the prey ship. "Recall all boarding parties immediately," he ordered. "Some of them cannot return, Captain. The Terrans have damaged too many docking connections. This was not possible." The Catharians were the hunters. The Terrans should be running in terror. Instead, they fought with a cold efficiency that Zekdar had only seen in other apex predators. "Ram them," he ordered. "Use our superior mass to crush their ship." But when the Bloodseeker moved to ram the Aurora Dawn, something happened that would be talked about in Catharian nightmares for generations to come. The Terran ship did not try to avoid the collision. Instead, it turned and accelerated directly at the much larger hunter ship. At the last second, it rolled to present its strongest shields forward and slammed into the Bloodseeker's hull. The impact should have destroyed the smaller ship. Instead, the Aurora Dawn's shields held, and the collision tore a massive hole in the Bloodseeker's side. The Terran ship bounced off and immediately moved to attack another hunter. "Impossible," Zekthar whispered. "No prey species fights like this, Captain," Vexstock said, his voice now filled with something Catharians rarely felt: fear. "I do not think they are prey." Nekthar watched his perfect hunt fall apart. 2 of his hunter ships were disabled. Third was losing power after taking multiple hits to its engines. The Terrans continued to move through space like they owned it. "What are they?" he demanded. The answer came not from his crew, but from his own hunting instincts. The Terrans moved like Catharians moved. They fought like Catharians fought. They showed no mercy and no hesitation. They were apex predators just like his own species, but there was something different about them. Something that made Zekthar's blood run cold. When Catharians hunted, they hunted for sport and pleasure. These Terrans were not hunting for fun. They were hunting to protect the weak. They were apex predators who had chosen to become guardians instead of killers. "All ships, retreat to safe distance," Zekthar ordered. "Captain, you heard me? These are not prey. These are hunters like us, but different, more dangerous." As the remaining Catharian ships pulled back from the battle, Zekthar realized that his species had just encountered something they had never seen before. A race of beings that was both predator and protector. Killers who chose to save instead of destroy. The Terrans had just done something no species had ever done to the Catharians. They had made them afraid. On the screen, the small Terran ship continued to move between the hunter vessels and their prey. It was damaged, but still fighting, still protecting beings it had never met, from a species that had nothing to do with them. Zekthar had been wrong about the natural order of things. In a universe where strength usually meant the right to destroy the weak, these Terrans had used their strength to protect instead. For the first time in his long life as a hunter, Zekthar began to understand what it felt like to be prey. The Aurora Dawn shook as another Catharian energy blast hit their shields. Sparks flew from damaged control panels on the bridge. The lights flickered but stayed on. Commander Jake Morrison wiped blood from a cut on his forehead and kept fighting. "Strength down to 40%, Chief Engineer Pete Sullivan called out from his station. His voice was calm despite the chaos around him. Pete had worked on spaceships for 30 years. He had seen worse situations than this. "How are our weapons?" Jake asked. "Still functional, but we're running low on power. I've got to choose between shields and guns pretty soon." Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez sat at her weapons control station. Her fingers moved across the targeting computers like she had been born to do this job. 2 Catharian ships are disabled. 3 are still fighting, but one of those is losing power fast. Navigator Tony Carter flew the Aurora Dawn through space like it was a race car instead of an exploration ship. He rolled and turned the vessel to avoid the hunter ship's weapons while keeping their own guns pointed at the enemy. Sweat ran down his face, but his hands never shook. "Tony, bring us around behind the lead hunter ship," Jake ordered. "Copy that, Commander." The Aurora Dawn spun in a tight circle that should have been impossible for a ship its size. The artificial gravity system worked overtime to keep the crew from being thrown around like toys. Tony had learned to fly from his father, who had been a fighter pilot in Earth's military. The old man would have been proud. Dr. Lisa Kim worked at her science station. analyzing the Catherian ships for weak points. Commander, their ships are built for speed and firepower, but their hulls are thin. If we can get close enough, we can punch right through their armor. How close? Very close. Almost ramming distance. Jake thought about this. The Aurora Dawn had already rammed one hunter ship and survived. The ship was tough, built to handle the dangers of deep space exploration. But ramming was dangerous. It's one mistake, and they would all die. The communication system crackled to life. It was Captain Zekthar from the lead hunter ship. Terran vessel, you have fought well, but you cannot win. Surrender now, and we will give you a quick death. Jake keyed the communication system. This is Commander Morrison. I have a counter. Offer. Leave this system immediately, and we won't destroy the rest of your ships. Zekthar's laugh came through the speakers. It sounded like metal scraping against stone. You are damaged and outnumbered. What makes you think you can destroy us? Because we're human, Jake said simply. And humans don't give up. The communication ended. The 3 remaining hunter ships moved into attack formation. They were going to try to surround the Aurora Dawn and destroy it with concentrated fire. Pete, I need everything you can give me. Engines, weapons, shields, everything. You got it, Jake. But I can't keep this up much longer. The ship wasn't built for this kind of fighting. How much longer? Maybe 10 minutes before something important breaks. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was tired and scared, but they were still fighting. They could have run away at any time. The Aurora Dawn was fast enough to escape. But they stayed because somewhere on that damaged alien ship, innocent people were still being hunted and killed. Amy, target the lead ship's weapon systems. I want to take out their guns. Targeting now, Commander. The Aurora Dawn fired its main weapons at the Bloodseeker. The energy beams hit the hunter ship's weapon pods and exploded in bright flashes. One of the Catherian ship's main guns went dark, but the other 2 hunter ships were moving in from both sides. Their weapons charged up for a killing blow. Incoming fire from both flanks, Tony called out, I can't dodge them both. Jake made a decision that went against everything he had learned in space combat training. Don't dodge. Charge the one on the right. Sir, you heard me? Full speed at the ship on our right. Pete, transfer all shield power to the front. The Aurora Dawn accelerated directly at one of the attacking hunter's ships. The Catherian pilot was so surprised that he forgot to fire. By the time he remembered, it was too late. The exploration ship hit the hunter vessel at full speed. Duty impact crushed the front section of the Catherian ship like an empty can. The Aurora Dawn's shields flared and nearly failed, but held. The hunter ship spun away, leaking air and debris. 1 down, Amy said grimly. 2 to go. But the ramming attack had cost them. Warning lights flashed all over the bridge. The ship's hull had cracks in several places. The engines were making sounds they were not supposed to make. Hull breach on deck 3, Pete reported. Emergency force fields are holding, but barely. The 2 remaining hunter ships moved in for the kill, their weapons charged up again. This time, Jake knew the Aurora Dawn could not survive another direct hit. Then something unexpected happened. Commander Amy called out excitedly, getting a signal from the damaged alien ship. What kind of signal? It's the Villani. The aliens were trying to help. They're saying something. Amy listened to her headphones for a moment. They want to help us fight? Jake blinked in surprise. How can they help? Their ship is almost destroyed. Dr. Lisa Kim looked up from her science station. Commander, the Villani ship still has one working weapon system. A mining laser designed for cutting through asteroids. That's not a weapon. It is if you use it right. And from what I'm reading, it's very powerful. It's much more powerful than anything we have. Jake thought quickly. Survive much longer against the hunter ships. But if the Villani could help, maybe they had a chance. Amy, open a channel to the Villani ship. Channel open, sir. This is Commander Morrison of the Terran vessel Aurora Dawn. We are here to help you. Can you use your mining laser against the hunter ships? A new voice came through the communication system. It was high-pitched and musical, but the computer translated it into English. Commander Morrison, this is Captain Soft Voice of Morning Rain. We are a peaceful people. Do not know how to fight. I'll teach you, Jake said. Do you want to live? Yes. Then listen carefully. Point your mining laser at the nearest hunter ship and fire when I tell you to. The damaged Villani ship was huge, much bigger than either the Aurora Dawn or the hunter vessels. Its mining laser was designed to cut through solid rock from long distances. If it hit one of the thin-hulled Catherian ships, the results would be devastating. Targeting the hunter ship on our left, came the Villani captain's voice. The two remaining Catherian vessels were moving in for their final attack. They had no idea what was about to happen. Fire, Jake ordered. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the damaged Villani ship. It hit the hunter vessel dead center and cut completely through it from front to back. The Catherian ship broke in two pieces that drifted apart slowly. Holy cow, Tony whispered. That thing's got some punch. Captain Zekdar's voice came over the communication system again. This time he did not sound confident. This is not possible. The Villani are prey animals. They do not fight back. Maybe they've learned something from us, Jake replied. One ship left. Captain, want to surrender? Catherians do not surrender to prey. We're not prey. The Bloodseeker moved toward the Aurora Dawn for one final attack, but Captain Zekdar had forgotten about the Villani mining laser. Fire, Jake ordered again. The energy beam hit the Blood Seeker's engines. The hunter ship lost power and began to drift helplessly in space. This is Commander Morrison to all Catherian vessels, Jake announced over the open communication channel. Your hunt is over. Any of your people still on the Villani ship have 30 seconds to surrender before we cut your ship apart with you. Inside it. Within 20 seconds, the remaining Catherian boarding parties were surrendering to the Villani crew they had been hunting. Jake slumped back in his command chair. The bridge was quiet except for the sounds of damage control teams working to fix the ship's hull breaches. Status report, he said. Tired lie. Pete looked up from his engineering console. We're hurt bad, but we'll survive. Hull breaches are sealed. Engines are working barely. We need a shipyard, but we can make it home. Casualties? 6 injured crew members, but Dr. Martinez says they'll all be fine. Jake nodded. They had been lucky. Very lucky. Amy, open a channel to the Villani ship. Channel open, Commander. Captain Soft Voice of Morning Rain. This is Commander Morrison. Are your people safe? Yes, thanks to you. The hunters are captured. Our wounded are being treated. The Villani captain paused. Commander Morrison, why did you help us? We are not of your species. You've gained nothing by fighting for us. Jake thought about how to answer that question. How could he explain that humans had spent their entire evolution learning to be both predators and protectors? How could he make this gentle alien understand that humanity's greatest strength was not their ability to fight, but their willingness to fight for others? Because that's what humans do, Jake said finally. We don't walk away when someone needs help. There was a long silence. Then the Villani captain spoke again. The galaxy will want to know about your species, Commander Morrison. Word of what happened here will spread to every world. Jake looked out at the stars through the bridge windows. Somewhere out there, other species waited. Some would be friends, some would be enemies, some like the Catherians would be bullies. Who thought strength gave them the right to hurt the weak? Let them know, Jake said. Let them all know that humanity is here. 3 days after the battle, Commander Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of the Villani ship. The damage was worse than it had looked from outside. Huge holes had been cut through the metal walls. Emergency lights cast strange shadows. Everywhere, air smelled like burned electronics and fear. But the ship was alive again. Villani crew members worked to repair the damage. Their movements were quick and nervous, like small birds. They had large dark eyes and soft fur that covered their bodies. When they saw Jake coming, they stopped working and stared at him. Jake was used to this by now. To the Villani, he was something impossible. A predator who protected instead of hunted. A being from a death world who chose to save lives instead of taking them. Commander Morrison, came a musical voice behind him. Jake turned to see Captain's soft voice of Morning Rain approaching. The Villani captain was small, barely reaching Jake's chest. His fur was silver gray, and his eyes were the color of deep water. He moved with the careful grace of someone who had spent his whole life trying not to attract the attention of hunters. "Captain," Jake replied, "how are the repairs going?" "Well, thanks to your engineer, Mr. Sullivan. He has taught our people many things about fixing damaged systems." The Villani captain paused. "He is very patient with us.
Ass!
We are not used to working with predators. Pete's a good man. All of your people are good. This confuses us greatly." Jake had heard this from many of the Villani over the past few days. They could not understand how beings who were clearly designed for hunting and killing could choose to help instead of harm. It went against everything they thought they knew about the universe. They walked together toward the ship's main meeting hall. Dr. Lisa Kim and Chief Medical Officer Dr. Ron Martinez were there, working with Villani doctors to treat the wounded. The human doctors had been shocked to learn that the Villani had almost no knowledge of combat medicine. They had never needed to learn how to treat injuries from weapons. "Dr. Kim says you want to ask me something," Jake said as they walked. "My people have been talking. They have questions about your species, about why you are the way you are." They entered the meeting hall. It was a large room with walls covered in what looked like growing plants. The Villani liked living things around them. It made them feel safe. About 50 Villani sat in small groups on the floor. When Jake entered, they all turned to look at him. Jake sat down cross-legged in the center of the room. Captain Soft Voice of Morning Rain sat across from him. The other Villani moved closer, but stayed far enough away that they could run if needed. Old habits were hard to break. "What would you like to know?" Jake asked. A young Villani with bright blue fur spoke up. Her voice was so soft, Jake had to strain to hear it. "Why did you save us? We are not your kind. We cannot help you." "Nothing you want," Jake thought about how to answer. How could he explain human nature to beings who had never known anything but fear? "On my world," Jake began, "there are many different kinds of animals. Some hunt others for food. Some eat plants. Some are very large, and some are very small. But all of them follow one rule." "What rule?" asked another Villani. "The strong protect their young from danger. When something threatens their children, even the smallest animals will fight creatures much bigger than themselves." The Villani listened carefully. This was something they understood. They protected their own young too. But humans are different. Jake continued. "We protect not just our own children, but all children. Not just our own families, but all families. When we see someone in danger, we think of them as part of our group, part of our family, even if they look different from you," asked Captain Soft Voice of Morning Rain. "Especially then. Humans believe that intelligence and kindness are more important than what someone looks like or where they come from." An older Villani with white fur around his eyes spoke up. "Our predators. We can see it in how you move, how you think. Predators take, they do not give." Jake nodded. "You're right. Humans are predators. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We had to become strong and smart and dangerous to survive, but we learned something else too." "What?" "We learned that working together made us stronger than working alone. We learned that protecting the weak made our whole group safer. We learned that the best hunters are the ones who choose what to hunt." The room was very quiet. Could hear the soft sounds of the ship's life support systems and the whispered conversations of Villani in other parts of the hall. "You choose to hunt bad things instead of good things," said the young blue-furred Villani. "Yes, we hunt bullies and killers and those who hurt the innocent. The Catharians hunt for fun. We hunt to protect." Dr. Lisa Kim entered the hall carrying a portable computer. She walked over to Jake and sat down beside him. "Commander, I've been analyzing the Catharian ship records we captured. You need to see this." She showed him the computer screen. It was filled with data about Catharian hunting activities over the past century. The numbers were horrifying. "Many species have they hunted?" Jake asked quietly. "At least 47 that we can identify. Some of them are extinct now. The Catharians hunted them until there were none left." The Villani in the room made soft sounds of distress. They understood what extinction meant. They had been close to it themselves. "There's more," Lisa continued. The Catherians aren't the only hunters. There are other species like them throughout this region of space. Hundreds of hunting fleets, thousands of prey species living in constant fear. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. The galaxy was much larger and crueler than Earth's government had imagined when they sent out exploration ships. About the Galactic Council, he asked. Don't they have laws against this? Captain's soft voice of morning rain made a sound that might have been a laugh if it had not been so sad. The Galactic Council is controlled by predator species. They say hunting is natural law. The strong have the right to take from the weak. That's not natural law, Jake said firmly. That's just an excuse for cruelty. Over the next hour, more. Villani joined the conversation. They told stories about their species' history, about how they had once lived on a beautiful world with vast forests and clear rivers, about how the Catherians had found them and began hunting them for sport, about how they had been forced to flee their homeworld and live on ships running, from system to system, always afraid. We are not the only ones, said an elderly Villani female. There are many species like us. Hundreds of refugee fleets scattered across space, all running from hunters. Jake felt anger building inside him, not the hot anger of battle, but the cold anger of someone who had seen too much injustice. What if they didn't have to run anymore? He asked. What do you mean? Asked Captain, soft voice of morning rain. If someone protected them instead? What if someone stood up to the hunters and made them stop? The Villani looked at each other with expressions Jake was beginning to recognize. It was hope mixed with disbelief. They wanted to believe such a thing was possible. They had been prey for so long that they could not imagine a universe where the hunters were afraid. Your people would do this? Asked the elderly female. My people would definitely do this, Jake said without hesitation. Humans don't like bullies. We never have. 3 months later, Jake Morrison stood before the Galactic Council on their homeworld of Nexus Prime. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from over 200 species. Some looked like insects, some looked like plants, some were so alien that Jake could not even guess what they might be. But he could tell which ones were predators and which ones were prey just by watching how they moved and where they sat. Predators sat in the center, confident and relaxed. The prey species huddled around the edges, nervous and ready to run. The human delegation will now present their case, announced the council speaker, a being that looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird. Jake stepped forward. He was not nervous. He had faced worse things than politicians. Honored council members, he began. My name is Jake Morrison. I represent the human species of Earth. 3 months ago, my ship encountered a hunting party attacking a defenseless vessel. We intervened and stopped the attack. Murmurs filled the chamber. Several of the predator species made sounds of disapproval. The humans had no right to interfere with a legal hunt, declared a representative of the Catherian Empire. It was not Captain Zekdar, but it looked similar. The prey vessel had entered our territory. There is no territory in open space, Jake replied calmly. And there is no legal right to hunt innocent beings for sport. The strong have always ruled the weak, said another predator representative. This is natural law. Jake looked around the chamber. Many of the prey species were nodding agreement with the predators. They had been taught to accept their place in the food chain. Natural law says that the strong protect the weak, Jake said loudly. Natural law says that intelligence and compassion matter more than claws and fangs. Natural law says that a species, advanced enough to build starships, should be advanced enough to stop murdering children for fun. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Predator species roared their disapproval. Prey species whispered fearfully among themselves. The council speaker called for order.